Welcome, everybody, to Center for Spiritual Living, Rogue Valley in Medford, Oregon. I'm Kimberly Hawkins, Spiritual Director here, and I am honored that you decided to join us for our Sunday celebration. We are a progressive, inclusive spiritual community, and we teach ancient wisdom, spiritual truths, and new thought. With me this morning is our practitioner, Maggie Covarrubias, who will be doing our opening prayer and invocation. And our musicians this morning are Anton Miserak and Laura Berryhill. So sit back and enjoy.
What is mine to give? What is mine to do? All I want is to share myself with you. So I stand here asking, what can I do? What is mine to give? I give it to you. What is mine to give? What is mine to do? All I want is to share myself with you. So I stand here asking, what can I do? What is mine to give? I give it to you. What is mine to give? What is mine to do? All I want is to share myself with you. So I stand here asking, what can I do? What is mine to give? I give it to you. What is mine to give? What is mine to do? All I want is to share myself with you. So I stand here asking, what can I do? What is mine to give? I give it to you. What is mine to give? I give it to you. What is mine to give? I give it to you.
Good morning. As we enter this sacred time together, we say this affirmative prayer. I know right here, right now, in this sacred time, as we gather together as a community, that there is a power of love and light and life that surrounds us, that embraces us, that is present with every beat of our hearts. This power, this presence is God. We are one with God. And I know, as we share this time together, that the beautiful music, the inspiring talk, the love that we share virtually lifts us up and reminds us that we are one with that divine spirit. And right here, right now, in this moment, we allow ourselves to see ourselves and know ourselves as God sees us and knows us. Perfect, whole, and complete, always loved, always cherished. And so, as we share this sacred time, I know blessings abound for each and every one of us, for the community around us, and that in this new world, this new year, that those blessings ripple out across the globe, bringing love and peace to all. I'm so blessed to be here with this loving community. I know these blessings touch each and every one of us. And I affirm this prayer by saying, and so it is. So I have been reading quite a few books lately. I think it kind of annoys my husband. Actually, I have so many on the bedstand. But one of them is almost like a Notes on Living. It's called Almost Everything, Notes on Hope by Anne Lamott. And it just struck me that there were a few things I wanted to share with you from the book. One is actually the closing of the book, and the other is a really lovely poem that she has in the book. So she speaks of hope, and this is what she says towards the end of her book. Life is way wilder than I am comfortable with, way farther out, as we used to say, more magnificent, more deserving of awe, and I would add, more benevolent, well-meaning. Waves and particles, redwoods, poetry, this world of wonders and suffering, great crowds of helpers and humanitarians. I worry myself sick about the melting ice caps, the escalating arms race, and the polluted air as I look forward with hope to the cleansing rains, the coming spring, the warmth of summer, the student marches. John Lennon said, "Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end." And as this has always been true before, we can hope it will be again. We have all we need to come through. Against all odds, no matter what we've lost, no matter what messes we've made over time, no matter how dark the night, we offer and are offered kindness, soul, light, and food, which create breath and spaciousness, which create hope, sufficient unto the day. And now the poem. This poem is by Lucille Clifton, and it's called Blessing the Boats. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. And so it is.
Thank you, Maggie. Beautiful prayer and reading. And we go now back to our musicians, Laura and Anton.
The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, a child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Mother, carry me, a child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Ganga ki jaya jaya, Yamuna ki jaya jaya. 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 The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. The river, she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river, she is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, a child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Mother, carry me, a child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Ganga ki jaya jaya, Yamuna ki jaya jaya. 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 The river she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river she is flowing down to the sea. The river she is flowing, flowing and growing. The river she is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, a child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Mother, carry me, a child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Ganga ki jaya jaya, Yamuna ki jaya jaya. 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 Ganga ki jaya jaya, Yamuna ki jaya jaya.
Delightful song, Anton and Laura. I feel like getting up and dancing. However, I have a confession to make to y'all. I woke up this morning in a funk, just a funk. I didn't feel happy. I felt out of sorts, kind of a malaise. I didn't know why. There was nothing in particular on my mind that I was conscious of bothering me. But did you ever have that happen? You wake up in a funk? And you know, for a minister on Sunday morning, that's kind of a scary thing to have happen, because I knew that I needed to come in and deliver a message that hopefully had some bit of inspiration. And it's really hard to be inspiring if you don't feel inspired. So what I did was what I always do. I got ready, I got dressed, and had something to eat, and had my cup of coffee, which does help. And then I sat and I got quiet in my meditation chair. And this morning I decided to use a prayer I had been reminded of recently from Marianne Williamson. It's a very brief and simple prayer, and it goes like this. Dear God, I open myself to you. Please enter where you already abide. Dear God, I open myself to you. Please enter where you already abide. It sounds like a contradiction. How can something or someone enter where they already abide? But it makes perfect sense to me, because I think the invitation is really, I open myself to allow myself to know, to be conscious that that divine spirit abides right here within me always. It never leaves me. So it's really about a change in perception, a change in my consciousness. It's not about asking God to do anything, really. It's affirming what I need to do. And I just recommend this prayer if the word God triggers you in some way, because I am aware that some of us have been wounded in other spiritual traditions. You could use any word that resonates with you. Dear divine love, dear universal spirit, dear consciousness, whatever it is, I welcome you. Please enter where you already abide. And I have to say that after a fairly brief time of meditation and quiet, my funkified state left me. And I never really did figure out exactly why, and maybe it doesn't always matter why, because really, truly, the only thing that causes suffering, I believe, and many traditions teach, is the belief or the feeling that we can ever be separate from God, from the divine, from that presence within. That's really the only thing we need to heal. And I'm also aware that this prayer, Dear God, I welcome you, please enter where you already abide, it's very similar, if you will, to our first two steps of spiritual mind treatment, which in Science of Mind is our affirmative prayer. The first step is recognition, where we consciously recognize God, which Maggie did in her prayer, Spirit, as the only power there is, as everywhere present. And the second step of treatment, and by the way, we don't pray to change God in our tradition. We pray to know the truth in our own hearts. So the second step is called unification, and it's really that step where there is no unification necessary. God already dwells within, but what we do is we speak to know that we can never be separate. The Course in Miracles tells us that we are an idea in the mind of God, and an idea can never be separate from its source. So here we are. We finally made it to 2021, and now we welcome the new year full of things that have never been. That's a quote from Rainer Maria Wilke. We enter a new year full of things that have never been. I know this time of year is always exciting in some way, isn't it? It's filled with promise. It's a new start, a clean slate, a chance to set the restart button, to start over. Certainly last year was full of things that have never been, and not necessarily things that we would have welcomed consciously or expected even. 2020 was a challenging year for many of us. And even though scientists had predicted that we were due for a pandemic, I don't think many of us were aware that that was a possibility or expecting it. And I'm hoping as we look back over the year that we see blessings as well as challenges. But I will tell you that from a numerological perspective, 2020 could be expected to be challenging. 2020 was a 4 year. If you add up the digits in 2020, you get 4. And 4 years are typically years that we can expect challenges, obstacles. Somebody phrased it as we can have breakthroughs, but on a sea of obstacles. They're years of restriction, of limitation, of effort. And if all that sounds kind of like familiar, yeah, it does to me too, that there was a lot of struggle in 2020. Whereas 2021, the good news is it's a 5 year, if you add up the digits. It's a 5, and 5 years represent freedom, new possibility, freedom to make a new choice, to learn from our mistakes so that we don't repeat them, adventure, possibility. So I like that. I mean, I think any new year is filled with that promise, but especially 2021 is an opening to new perspectives, new experiences, new ways of thinking, new understanding. If you've been around me or this community for very long, you probably remember that I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions per se. They don't work. Research shows that within a couple months, most of us have forgotten them and certainly not succeeded in accomplishing them. One definition of a New Year's resolution is something that comes in 1 year and out the next. And typical, there was a woman last year who made the resolution to read more, and she ended up placing subtitles on her television set. Another woman, maybe it was a man, decided to lose 10 pounds. That's a frequent one. It's a very common one. And now that the new year is starting, good news, they wanted to lose 10 pounds, only 15 to go. So that's kind of the way our New Year's resolutions tend to turn out. So in the last several years, I have a habit instead of being open to receiving a theme for the year. Lately, it's become either a word or a phrase. So this past year, my word was simplify. Which is kind of interesting because in many, many ways, we collectively were called to simplify our lives last year. We couldn't do a lot of the things. I typically take a couple trips, big trips, couldn't travel, couldn't assemble. We were called to focus on what really matters, what can we really put our energy in because we were restricted in so many ways. In other ways, I think last year wasn't simple. Because, for instance, in this community, we had to figure out how we can reach people and stay in touch with people without the ability to gather in person. So many Zoom calls and meetings virtually and so on. But I think that idea of simplifying carries over into my new year because I like the idea of really clarifying what matters, what truly matters, and making life simple. And maybe turning away from consumerism and shopping or activities that become a little compulsive and really focusing on what matters. But as I got quiet this year, and I share this just as examples, your theme may be entirely different, but as I got still at the end of December, the theme that came to mind, the phrase that came to mind for me was trust me. Trust me. And so I've been sitting with that and trying and kind of letting it be clarified. What does that mean? One of the things it means for me is to be authentically who I am and not get into comparison. It's so easy, isn't it, for us to want to compare ourselves to others in whatever arena we're talking about, whether it's our profession or our family life. And somehow when we compare ourselves to others, I don't know about you, but it always seems that I end up feeling like I don't measure up, lacking. The other thing we do is contrast. You know, we have a set of beliefs and we have values and the way we think things should be done, whether it's getting vaccines or not, or how to wear a mask or when. And we tend to judge others who don't believe the same as we believe. And neither of these things, comparing or contrasting, is terribly productive, doesn't really make us happy. So I like this idea of trusting me. The other part of trusting me is trusting God in me or God as me, allowing my guidance to be clear and to follow it and to trust that I'm always guided, supplied, supported. Everything I need comes to me. If you listened last week, you know that Reverend Elisha Christopher did an amazing, amazing talk about both the perspective of looking at what 2020, what some of the lessons were and why perhaps it had appeared the way it appeared. But the other thing he did was he talked about allowing each of us to be called to that one thing that is speaking to us as we begin a new year. He likened life to a jigsaw puzzle. And he said that not one of us has the picture on the box that shows what the picture is going to look like, but each of us has a piece of the puzzle. That if we allow ourselves to listen to that lure of becoming, what is calling to us, what is beckoning us, and we allow ourselves to be that, to manifest that, to pursue that, to create that the puzzle comes together. So I think this idea of trust me, trust what is it I'm called to do. I, as a unique emanation, as we each are of God, of that creative principle, nobody is like me. Nobody has this same set of passions, of talents, of inspiration. And I go to inspiration to somebody who has always had great wisdom, and that's Dr. Seuss. He said, "Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you." So let's be ourselves fully and all out this year. Our theme I've chosen for this month is out with the old, in with the true. Out with the old, in with the true. So it goes back to realizing the truth that we are divine creations. And as that Maggie so beautifully prayed for us, that we are perfect, whole, and complete. And I'll be talking some more about that and how we come to really embody that and accept that and believe that. But my talk this morning, I entitled New Year, New Me. New Year, New Me. Now, new me is a little bit of a misnomer because, again, there's no such thing as a new me. I am me. You are you. Truer than true. Always nobody's youer than you. But new me in terms of my awareness. I love that passage from Romans where Paul wrote, "Be ye renewed, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." It's our perspective, our consciousness that can be new, that can be clearer, that can be more fully embodying who we each came here to be. And so this time of year that's so exciting as we have a brand new start, I look to a columnist from the Boston Globe named Ellen Goodman, who I've always admired, and she wrote this about the new year. She said, "We spend January 1st walking through our lives room by room, drawing up a list of work to be done, cracks to be patched." Can anybody relate? What are the things I need to change or fix about myself? But she goes on to say, maybe this year, to balance the list, we ought to walk through the room of our lives not looking for flaws, but for potential. Not looking for flaws, but looking for potential. I was reading recently, rereading a book called The 7 Spiritual Laws by Deepak Chopra. And the first chapter is about we are infinite potential. That's what God is, and that's what we are. And so at the beginning of the year, what a blessing it would be if each of us, instead of looking at what we want to fix, we could look at what is the potential waiting to be expressed here by me? What am I called to be and to express as I let out with the old and in with the true? I've been starting a class this year in my need to be inspired and to have something new in my life. I've started an online retreat given by the Buddhist nun Pema Chodron. She's in her 80s now and still as clear and wonderful teacher that she has always been, perhaps more so, right? And with a great sense of humor. And she's talking, with this idea of being fully ourselves. She talks about one of the things she notices in her students. She talks about kleshas. In Buddhism, kleshas are emotions that cause us pain. So the 3 big areas of these kinds of emotions are cravings, something we want, something we desperately grasp for, something that we feel we need, which is never true because happiness is never about outside circumstances. Happiness, as we know, really on some level is an inside job. But kleshas are cravings. They're aggressions, so we might be angry or jealous or upset with somebody, including ourselves. And the third area she calls ignorance, but it can also mean indifference, which can mean boredom. It can mean being kind of tuned out, kind of deadened, kind of the way I felt this morning when I woke up in a funk. These are all categories of emotions that cause us pain. And so to deal with them, she teaches there are 3 main things we have to do. We have to truly be present. We can't push away the feelings. We have to be present with them and feel them. We have to embody them. We have to be in our bodies and fully present in our bodies, and we have to be kind. And this idea of kindness, it applies not only to other people, but to ourselves. And Pema remarks in this first lecture I listened to in this course I'm taking that many times her students resist this idea that we should be kind to ourselves. That if we notice something that's wrong with ourselves or that we'd like to shift or change, a good percentage of her students feel like they have to be harsh with themselves. Does that resonate with any of you? That we have to take a tough stand here and we have to shift. And I think it's kind of a Western attitude we have, that we have to be tough and harsh to change. And she says, really, that's not true. Now, this does not mean that we're okay if we're having an addiction like alcoholism, that we don't say it's okay that we keep drinking. That's not being kind. And it's not that we say, oh, it's okay that I have a temper, I have a quick flashpoint, and I spew that, and I ream people out or yell at people I love. That's not okay. That's not being kind. But being kind is being compassionate and being loving towards ourselves as we make the intention to shift our perspective and to change our behaviors. I like that. I think that's good advice. So happiness is not based on outside circumstances. It's a shift in our perspective. If we're not happy, the Course in Miracles tells us, we're looking at something wrong. We're not seeing it in the proper perspective. And so I know a lot of times, in terms of craving, we feel like, oh, I really want a different relationship, or I want a different job, or I want a different experience of health in my body. which is fine. I mean, it's fine to have intentions. But I think when we let go of the old and embrace the true, out with the old, in with the true, we need to realize that whatever we're experiencing in our life, in terms of our relationships, in terms of our health, in terms of our job, our livelihood, our activities, is the perfect curriculum designed for us. And if we learn not to resist it, but to accept it, if we allow the lessons to move us and to move through us, then our circumstances can change. And by doing this, we allow ourselves to be at peace and to be happy. The perfect curriculum for our lives is what we're experiencing right now, right here. Sometimes that's a difficult one to swallow, especially if we look at the last year and what we're still experiencing in this experience of COVID and this experience of realizing that the racial inequities and the economic inequities that exist in our country and really in other places around the world. So one of the first steps in this out with the old and with the true is to feel what we're feeling. Like I allowed myself to do this morning. I didn't resist feeling funkified. I sat with it. I prayed to be allowed a new perspective of, what is true. And I thought to share with you a poem that I have read before, and perhaps you're familiar with, but ancient wisdom is true always. It doesn't change. And this is a poem by the Sufi mystic, ancient poet Rumi, called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Wow, what beautiful wisdom. Each has been sent by a guide from beyond. In other words, again, our experiences are meant to grow us. We're here in Earth School to learn, and we don't learn unless we have experiences, and sometimes those experiences bring difficult emotions. The Buddhists call them kleshas. But we're meant to be kind, we're meant to allow them, we're meant to feel them, we're meant to take a look at them and allow them to move through and beyond. So new year, new me. New year, new perspective. I am going to invite us this week and this month, because this is really a process, this feeling into 2021, feeling into a new year. I'm going to invite us to ask some questions. One of the important questions I think to ask this time of year is, who do I need to forgive? Who am I holding outside my heart? Towards whom am I holding resentment? And sometimes it's ourselves. Sometimes part of that is myself. I'm resentful of myself. Towards whom am I holding a grudge? Marianne Williamson recommends when we figure that out, those people that we're resenting, that the way out is to pray for them. Now, that may sound counterintuitive. I don't want to pray for the person I'm resenting. But she says if we do this, if we spend 5 minutes every morning for 30 days praying for those very people that we resent or we need to forgive, things shift. 2 things might happen. One of these 2 things will happen, she says. Either they will stop the behavior that we're so upset about, or it will simply no longer bother us because the shift has happened in us. She talks about how the universe is self-organizing and self-correcting. So we don't have to decide we need to punish somebody for their actions which we deem a betrayal or wrong. We are all punished, Ernest Holmes says, by our actions, not because of them. We're not punished by some God out there who says, you did wrong, I'm going to do this to you. we experience the consequences of our actions. And just as we do, we know that everyone else does. So we don't have to play God. We don't have to play punisher or judge. We can trust that the universe will deliver the lessons to each and every one of us, including those people that we think are wrong or who have wronged us. Marianne Williamson uses the term divine compensation. So if we lose something, the divine will compensate. There is a line in the Bible that I loved. I will restore the years the locusts have eaten. But she also reminds us that in order to receive that divine compensation, we have to be open-hearted. Go back to that prayer. God, I open myself to you. I open myself to you. And that means opening myself to God as it shows up as every other person on the planet, because they are divinity incarnate, divinity walking around in a body for now. And the other question I think that is important to ask this time of year as we set sail on this new adventure of 2021 is not only who do I need to forgive, but what brings me joy? What brings me joy? And that kind of goes back to that question Reverend Elisha Christopher asked last week. What am I called to do? What are my true values? What activities or relationships or studies might enliven me this year? I have spoken this one before, and I will speak it again, because if I speak it, it means I need to do something about it. One of the things that's been tugging at me for quite a while is to form an interfaith group here in Medford, Oregon. And so I'm not sure what next steps, but whenever we make an intention, I believe the universe moves in to support us. When we say, God, I am open to you, enter where I know you already abide, then guidance comes. So I think this is true. I know this is true for each and every one of us. So out with the old, in with the true. New year, new me, not new, different me. I am as God created me. I cannot be anything else, and the same is true for each of us. But new me in terms of new perspective, new clarity. Let's invite that in this year. Before I wrap up this message, I'd like us to go into a meditation. Anton and Laura will play some music underneath, and I'm going to be asking a few questions for you to contemplate. And by the way, if you can manage to have a pen and paper handy, it might be a good idea, either now or later. And this meditation is designed to begin this process of taking an inventory. Isn't January the time when businesses take inventory of what they have and what they need? It's a good chance for us to do the same. So I don't view this as the be-all and end-all of our year-end, beginning of the year inventory, but a start, a beginning. So let's begin by taking a nice deep breath in. Allowing the body to relax, perhaps allowing the shoulders to fall away from our ears if we're hunched up. Becoming aware if there's any place in the body temple that's feeling tension, and perhaps breathe into that space. And as we breathe out, imagine we're releasing any tension, any being ill at ease. Allowing the mind to settle, not pushing away thoughts, but just allowing them, observing them, as if we're lying on our backs in the grass watching the clouds float by, just noticing thoughts, noticing the clouds, and allowing them to float on by. Paying attention for a minute to the breath as it comes in and as it goes out. Perhaps you notice that it's cool passing your nostrils on the way in and warmer on its way out. And so as you settle into this quiet space with kindness, open-heartedness, Let's say the words Marianne recommended for that morning prayer. God, I open myself to you. Please enter where you already abide. And so as I open myself to God, to love, to divine intelligence, to whatever my word or phrase is for that life that is everywhere present in and through all of creation, right within me and around me, I invite each of us to ask, who is one person that I need to forgive? As we enter this brand new year, who is one person towards whom I am holding a grudge? Someone I am holding outside my heart. And allow that person to come to mind, perhaps to see their face. They may be someone who is in your life currently. They may be someone who is no longer on this earth plane. Perhaps it's a group of people or a political figure. So let's begin with the first person that comes to mind. Perhaps it's yourself, but let's pick someone else for now. We'll work on ourselves in a moment. One person other than me that I am resenting. And as you picture that person's face, let's say to ourselves, I accept you, I bless you, and then their name. I accept you, I bless you. And if it's really feeling impossible to accept and bless and forgive this person, we can always start by saying, I am willing to be willing to forgive you, and then the person's name. I am willing to be willing to forgive you. And once again, I accept you, I bless you. Moving on to our second question. What's one way I am judging myself? What's one way I'm holding myself outside of my heart? How am I judging myself? Perhaps I think that I've been selfish or stupid, unlovable, bumbling, incompetent. What's one judgment I am holding against myself? And when you have that one thing that's come to mind, or choose one thing out of the many things that may have come to mind, say to yourself, I forgive myself for judging myself as unlovable, selfish, whatever it may be. I forgive myself for judging myself as. And just stay with that for a moment. I forgive myself for judging myself as whatever that bad thing, quality is. It's a beautiful practice because we're not forgiving ourselves for being unlovable, selfish, bumbling, whatever the judgment is, because that is not the truth of us. Remember, the theme is out with the old, in with the true. The truth is we are perfect, whole, magnificent children of the Most High that never judges us. as anything but whole, complete, perfect love in action. So we forgive ourselves for judging ourselves as something else than God, Spirit, Holy Spirit, Creator, created us to be. Breathing in and breathing out. Letting go of judgment, opening that heart chakra. And the final third question I invite us to ask in this meditation, and perhaps to continue later. What is calling me? What is nudging me? What is luring me to do, to be, to embody, to start this new year? What is it that I've perhaps had on the back burner or not been fully conscious of? What is it my heart is telling me I want to do, to experience, to be? And as that one thing comes to mind, and it may come to mind right here, right now, it may come to mind later as we've opened the door for it, we've invited it to make itself known. We then ask Spirit, what is a first step I might take in bringing forth this piece of the puzzle that I am meant to contribute this year in my personal life and or in the life of our collective. And so once again, taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out, knowing that we can continue this process, asking these questions. Who do I need to forgive? How am I judging myself? What is calling me? What is luring me this new year? Knowing that we are always supported by that very presence of life within. We need not look outside for the answers. And so as I invite you to continue this process, I invite us all right now to go into prayer. What I know is there is always one life, one presence, one power, one creator, one infinite possibility, living itself in and through all of creation. It is love, perfect love. It is connection, unity. It is clarity and freedom, freedom to choose each and every moment. It is beauty and order, divine compensation, self-organizing. It is harmony and so much more. And I know that all of these qualities exist right within me, the truth of me. I can never be separate from the idea that God created as me. And just as this is the truth and the only and absolute truth about me, it is the only and absolute truth about you, each one on the planet, each one of us. And so as I begin to look through the eyes of God, of the divine, of love, I see that infinite potential. I see that goodness, not only in me, but in each and every one on the planet. And I know that doesn't mean I need to accept the behaviors that I know are not coming from that place of love, but it means I accept and I bless each one I encounter. Because as I do that, I allow a new perception on my own part, and I allow change and transformation in the part of everyone around me. What a beautiful practice to Allow what no longer serves, what is old, to leave. And allow the perception of truth to become clear, to come into focus. That truly this 2020 sight that we expected last year is still waiting and available to us in 2021. The year of freedom, of possibility, of adventure, of a change in perspective. And so I accept, I bless each circumstance, each person, the way it appears right now, knowing that as we look through these eyes of love, these eyes of truth, everything can shift. That we are happiness, we are joy, that we are each experiencing the curriculum that we signed up for. And it is a curriculum that loves us, that grows us, that hones us. And that this is true for everyone around us. New year, new me. Out with the old, in with the true. Dear God, I open my heart to you. Please enter where you already abide. I give thanks for this new year. I give thanks for everything that is about to unfold. The freedom, the newness, the new perception, the happiness, the joy, the connection, the letting go eventually of our masks, not only our physical masks, but the masks that have masked the truth of who we are, our authentic selves that are waiting to shine and be shown and to be a light unto others. I give thanks for these teachings. I give thanks for ancient wisdom, new thought. I give thanks for each one of us on the planet collectively, now creating a world that works for all. And it's time now to just release this word, release this prayer into the heart, the law of God, which has already said, yes, my beloveds, it is done. And we say together, and so it is. Amen. Thank you for participating with me in that. And we go now once again to Anton Miserak and Laura Berryhill.
Yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Whoa, whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Whoa, whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour your love in me, pour your love into my heart. Whoa, whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour your love in me, pour your love into my heart. Whoa, whoa, wonderful Spirit, shine your light in me, shine your light into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, shine your light in me, shine your light into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit. Pour yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, whoa, wonderful Spirit, whoa, wonderful Spirit.
wonderful spirit that each of us is. And I don't know about you, but that funk that I felt this morning is really dissipated. Not that it may not come back, it will. But I'm so grateful for the music, the prayer, the reading, the message that flowed through me as I opened my heart, as I invited Spirit to pour itself into me. And it's already waiting and pouring itself into each of us. So now is the time we get to express our gratitude through the act of sacred giving. And I invite you to share our affirmation with me. It'll come up on the screen in just a moment. From the love of pure spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal and bless and prosper. It is evidence of my faith and my belief. It does great work in the world, and it returns to me multiplied abundantly. There are several ways to make a gift to Center for Spiritual Living, Rogue Valley. The old-fashioned way, mailing a check to CSL RV, P.O. Box 1458, Medford, Oregon 97501. Or you can simply go to our website, cslroguevalley.org, hit the donate button, and you can make your contribution there. A reminder of some of the activities going on in our community. We have a morning spiritual practice call ongoing at 9 a.m. Mondays and Wednesdays, and also Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. The virtual Vista conference is coming up in February. And the Meditation is More Than You Think class with Reverend Michelle Ariano. There's an early bird special, only $145, so you save $40 for that 8-week class. It begins January 21st. You can sign up on our website by January 7th to get the early bird price. I am going to be starting with our practitioner, Maggie Covarrubias, a book study on Return to Love in February, the month of love, of course. It will be a 6-week class. It's an older book. It's more than 20 years old. It was the basis of some of my talk this morning, and it is well worth a revisit. So stay tuned for more details about that. That'll be Sunday afternoons in February. You can sign up for our newsletter on our Facebook page to keep abreast of all the activities that are going on. We do have also our community annual meeting coming up the last Sunday in January. That's January 31st in the afternoon. I believe it's 1 o'clock, so stay tuned for those Zoom instructions. I think that's all the announcements, so let's go to Laura and Anton once again for our closing song.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and old lang syne? For old lang syne, my Joe, for old lang syne, we'll talk a cup of kindness yet. For old lang syne, we twy run about the braes and pod the goings fine, but we've wandered many a weary fit sin old lang syne. For old lang syne, my Joe, for old lang syne, we'll talk a cup of kindness yet. For old lang syne, we twy paddled in the burn frae morning sun till dine, but seas between us braid hae roared sin old lang syne. For old lang syne, my Joe, for old lang syne, we'll talk a cup of kindness yet. For old lang syne, for old lang syne, my Joe, for old lang
So happy New Year, everyone. Happy 2021. And as we practice this theme of out with the old, in with the true, I encourage you all to connect to spiritual community, because we do that so much more easily and gracefully and joyfully when we do it together. So whether it's joining one of our morning calls, signing up for one of our classes, I encourage you to get in there and join. Join together. And final reminder is, as we do that, as we let go of the old, we do it with kindness. We do it with compassion. Be well until next time. Namaste.